Hello Fableland followers, hello random viewers, everybody who stumbled upon my channel. This is MT Vukovich from Fableland, and today we have a very nice little book for our review. It is called The Twilight World, written by Werner Herzog. Some of you may have heard of Werner Herzog, probably, hopefully, and he's my favorite also in a way, and very dear to me. Movie director, writer, a man of everything, of many skills. Most famously known from movies Fitzcarraldo and Nosferatu, Aguirre, and so on, famous for work with Klaus Kinski. I like him a lot as a cultural commentator. His interviews are always very interesting, and his observations are always interesting to listen or to read about. And most recently, Werner Herzog has given us a book called The Twilight World. It is a fresh translation into English from German, originally published in Germany last year in 2021. Now available in English also. And it is a short book, 130 pages, but Werner Herzog has a special capability to put in very little pages quite a lot. So at the beginning of the book there is an interesting anecdote which Werner Herzog tells us, and how it came for this book to be written. And he was working in Japan 1997, directing an opera, and he was a guest of honor for entire Japan. And during an official dinner with many high guests, his colleague told him that he is invited to a private audience with the Emperor of Japan. And to which he replied, "Oh my goodness, I have no idea what I would talk about with the Emperor. It would be nothing but banalities." And to that, he said, the entire room went silent, because he just refused a call invitation from the Emperor of Japan to join him. And then his colleague asked him, "Well then, if you don't want to meet the Emperor, whom do you want to meet?" And he said instantly, like, "Onoda." Onoda, who is Onoda? It's Hiroo Onoda. And Hiroo Onoda is the main character of this book. Some of you may have heard about Hiroo Onoda. In any case, he is a person that is really interesting to read about, and very, very interesting to try to get into his head, which Werner Herzog most definitely wanted to do. So Hiroo Onoda, a little backstory, is a man who was fighting in Second World War. And he was given an order in 1944, close to the end of the war, that he will be dispatched to Lubang Island, a very small island in the Filipinos archipelago, and that his duty is to protect the island by any cost. He was forbidden to kill himself, to die by his own hand. In the event of your capture by the enemy, you are to give them all the misleading information that you can. So he was a man on a secret mission to conduct guerrilla fighting against the Americans on the Lubang Island, and in no case was he allowed to reveal himself or to contact enemies, just to rely on his unit. And that's where the story gets interesting, because that's when Hiroo Onoda starts his fight with such determination that his fight lasted a little bit more than just a few years. His fight lasted all the way until 1974. So it was almost full 30 years that Hiroo Onoda spent in the jungle fighting against first Americans, then the Filipino army and the locals. He was a man to whom the war continued for 29 more years. He was not the only one with such story, there were some others, but that's the most interesting thing about the man, and no wonder that Werner Herzog wanted to meet him, because a man continued to fight in a war that stopped 29 years ago. And what most fascinated Werner Herzog, I think, with Hiroo Onoda, and what we can see the traces of Herzog in the book, is that Werner Herzog is a man who made few movies in the jungle itself, and he was a man who chose to go to the jungle and to put himself through survival in the jungle with entire crews of his movies. And he feels a certain connection to the jungle. And Hiroo Onoda, of course, is a man who spent living and fighting as a guerrilla fighter in the jungle for 29 years, opened up to him because of the fact that Werner Herzog, like he said himself, he could ask questions that few others could ask him. And those questions were something that brought them together, and something that gave capacity for Hiroo Onoda to open himself up to Werner Herzog. And thus we have this book written by Herzog, not recently, but published recently, so for the first time. And we have very nice observations of the jungle, not just from Hiroo Onoda. That's where Werner Herzog puts himself into the book, and he tells us so that there are places where it's not all going to be a narrative part of the book, but as he said, most details are factually correct, some are not. What was important to the author was something other than accuracy, some essence he thought he glimpsed when he encountered the protagonist of this story. So he wanted us to bring us the jungle. He wanted to bring us what it is that is there for a person, that impels the person to come there, to stay there, and to fight this natural element, and just to try to find a way to live in it and to survive. On the other hand, the book is also about our dedication, the ideas, our dedication to the ideas. And of course, Hiroo Onoda is a man of certain cut that many would say that today there are not many people like that. And I personally believe and think that only in certain cultures people like Hiroo Onoda can come in a culture like Japanese or Korean or Chinese, because their code of honor used to be something different than what we are used here in the West. And that somebody could obey the given order for 29 years, and despite all the evidence that was given to him, to Hiroo Onoda, they even were playing recording of his brother telling him to come back home, the war is over. He never shelved off his path of his mission. He was doing what he was told, and he believed in it. And later, when he came back to the real world, he was disappointed with what Japan has turned into, and he moved to Brazil, lived there pretty much until his last days. But still, Werner Herzog brings us Hiroo Onoda and brings us this code of honor and dedication to it, which you, if you read a book, may find absurd. But in a way it is romantic, because such codes which today we observe with sniggering and just maybe even more than absurd, is something that was still in romantic times, in Romanticism, in Renaissance, from the code of chivalry to the code of Bushido in Japan. And it touches on the Bushido code, because Hiroo Onoda made sure that his sword that was in his family for many generations never got rusty. He found a way how to press the coconut into oil to get the coconut oil so that they could use it not just for food but also to preserve his sword in a pristine condition throughout all the 29 years in the jungle. In any case, Werner Herzog brings us a glimpse in these modern times with modern people, with people who just recently died actually, who still lived this code of honor that is so unheard of today. And yes, it may be code of honor that is for the wrong reasons, that was the losing side, Japan was on the losing side, but still it is something in a person that compels them to stay true to their word, even when after so many years in the jungle, when he was thinking that he was losing his mind, that he was no longer him, and when he ponders what is him versus the person who fulfills this code of honor, but still he keeps on despite the obvious, because such relics of the old times, of the antique times, doesn't exist today anymore. And that is the glimpse that Werner Herzog gave us in this book on something that that we may in the books read in something, many fantasy books with a bit longing for some old times and how it was nice, but when today we see it, we notice the absurdity of it. And but beside this absurdity, we also notice the certain beauty of it, because what many today would laugh at, this absurdity and following this code of honor, is actually something that many would be jealous of, to have such dedication to idea, to yourself, and to fulfill your promise and staying true to yourself. And that is why this book is a compelling read, is something that gives us a glimpse into a mind of such man, and on the other hand a glimpse into a mind of Werner Herzog and their view of such extreme natural element that the jungle is. And yeah, like for everything in the end, we will give stars. We will try to say in a very simple way from 1 to 5 how I find the book. And once again, I regret that I started just doing with 5 stars. I should have done it with decimals also, but we will still keep it simple. So, very simple. In the end, I say, drum roll please. I don't know how to do it. The book gets 5 out of 5, most definitely. I mean, from my position, even if it was not such a good written book and interesting story, it's still Werner Herzog. So I advise you, go to YouTube, check his videos, watch his movies, old ones, and read his interviews. That guy has observations. The guy has an eye for this world, and that is really something that you should check out if you already did not and don't know about him. So, in the end, Werner Herzog, The Twilight World, 5 out of 5, most definitely. Hiroo Onoda is a man that you should read about. Very, very compelling read. So, that's this time from the Fableland channel. I am MT Vukovich. Please subscribe, follow us for more content. There will be always more and more books coming. So subscribe, follow us, give us a thumbs up, dislike also, as long as it is honest one, and catch you again with some new book.